Okay, everybody, welcome to another edition of Alan Carroll's world famous podcast of life. And I'm really happy to have a guest today who comes from another Nordic country. And I'm kind of on a quest to nail all the Nordic, have a guest from a Nordic country. So I've had a person, Irish person from Sweden. I've had somebody, a classmate from Norway. I haven't got anybody from Finland, but I do know a good guy from Finland I'm chasing down. Very interesting guy. But today I had Lasse Larving, who's originally from Denmark. So he's a Dane. So hello, Lasse.
Hello. How's you do? Hello.
He's a Viking, right?
I kind of steer away from that. Vikings are not necessarily known for doing good things.
Well, hang on a second. Irish people love Vikings. You're correct. Even though they came and plundered the monasteries and all that good. Great. And I'm not sure whether I told you, so I'm going to kick off the conversation with this. That I think I might have told you, but I'll tell you again. When I did my DNA last year, the results came back if we can ever trust them or whatever. So it's Irish and a little bit of, I think, a little smatterings of other, Scottish or whatever. But I got 2% Swedish.
Meatballs.
So I don't. Who knows? Meatballs. There you go. IKEA. So now I know why when I go to IKEA, I don't feel bad. I'm okay with IKEA. I like to ramble around as long as I can let my wife, as long as I can let Lorraine do her thing.
Yeah.
Kind of trudge behind it, so I think.
Well, you might not know this, but I actually worked for IKEA for 7 years.
Oh, there you go. There's a link. So you worked.
There was a couple of years ago. There was a scandal that some of those meatballs had traces of horse meat.
Yes.
And me and an old colleague and I decided that we probably at this time had eaten a full horse, because you eat a lot of meatballs when you work in IKEA, especially when you're in management and you work a lot of hours.
So break meatballs. Break. I remember that scandal, actually. That was crazy, yeah. But you know what? The world keeps turning because, there was the big scandal and whatever, and IKEA got through it and they still, people,
they are doing a really good job on the marketing side, that's for sure, no matter what they do.
Yeah,
they got that. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, incredible. So listen, what I want to talk to you about today is a little bit about you live in Ontario, Canada. So very simple question: how did you end up here? So you live here with your wife Michelle and your 2 kids, and that's, by the way, that's your cool background.
Oldest?
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
I'm pointing at my screen, so that's oldest in the background, and then is that your other? Baby?
That's my wife and Ruby in the background.
There you go. I knew it was just a little bit of
solid monitoring, and then Otis's best friend Matteo. So
I'm
hiding him.
That's all. Yeah. So that's I love the backdrop. So so back to my original question. Tell me about your journey, because you're a Dane who lives. You ended up living in Canada. So tell us how it all came about.
I back in 2000, and this is going to be wrong. Michelle's going to be.
That's okay. The dates are fine.
Around late 2008, I went on a 3-week vacation to meet up with some friends in Thailand. And one of the first things we did was going to Copenhagen, because when you're in Thailand and you're in your early 30s and you kind of setting your life through a midlife crisis, you want to go to a full moon party. And so we ended up at Copenhagen. And at day 1, I met my now wife, Michelle. And we travel around together with her 3 friends, my 2 friends. We went to Koh Samui, Bangkok, and then she was traveling on to Laos and I was going home. And obviously we didn't really think we will see each other again after that. So it was no sobbing goodbye, it was a high five. And I was running around in Denmark, going back to my old work there. And she was still traveling around and getting an email and whatnot. And I was live. And then she came back home, and then we actually started Skyping quite a lot. She came visit me for 2 weeks in Copenhagen, and that didn't go that well. Actually, we were like, this is not it. This is not going well.
Yeah.
Like, I have been living my bachelor lifestyle for a while, and I lived in a one-bedroom apartment in Copenhagen, and all of a sudden, I know I was working at the time, and she was there on holiday.
Yeah.
And mixed of week 2, we were like, okay, this is not gonna go. We're never gonna see each other again.
Yeah.
But then Iceland decided to have a volcano.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So she was actually stuck for another week and a half.
Oh my god!
And when you kind of get forced into that, we decided that let's get the best out of this instead of, and I took some time off and stuff like that. So actually, we enjoyed our company a lot, and then we applied for, she flew home, and then we applied for a working holiday visa, which is a 1 year visa, so you can go and explore all other cultures and you can work some of the time. And once again, that did not go well. Once again, I worked in a company that was doing rigging and staging and lighting and sound for festivals, concerts, etc. And when you land in June, I'm not home. I was working. Sometimes we slept at work just because of the turnaround time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So obviously, she landed, didn't know anyone. I was working hard.
God, yeah.
So that did not go well either.
Recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and but slowly but surely, it started going better and better and better. And we was coming to. Oh, I've been in Canada once before, and we kind of wanted to go here for Christmas. So we went here for Christmas, and we were like, okay, we came home in January, and we were like, we get based on immigration status, because immigration in Denmark is extremely hard.
Okay.
Is you don't necessarily, it's really hard to get, like, it takes a while, like 5-6 years to get PR, permanent residency.
Wow.
You get a temporary residency.
Yeah.
And at the time, the requirement was that you had to speak Danish and write Danish as a 10th grade level to just get temporary residency.
So it was quite arduous. It was a tough country to get into, basically.
It still is tough country to get into.
Okay. Yeah.
To this day, it hasn't softened up. I've probably gotten harder. I haven't been home for a while, so it's not really.
Yeah.
Anyways, we looked at each other and it's like, either we're gonna break up now, or we're gonna get married. So we got married, put in our application and so on for temporary residency for her.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the most stressful processes I've ever been through in my life. You have to put money down, and you need to show that you have a stable income, etc., etc., etc.
Yes.
And at the same time, she has a bunch of requirements to do. So she finally got her. First of all, they lifted some of the requirements about how good you are at Danish for certain countries, mostly Australia, Canada, Japan, Switzerland, not a bunch of non-EU countries.
Oh, okay.
Because I guess they're not as xenophobic for those countries.
Yeah. Crazy.
So yeah. So anyways, we started the requirements and started looking at what that meant. And after a while, after 6-7 months after Michelle got her temporary residency, we kind of came to conclusion that this is going to be every 2 years. And if you don't pass whatever test, and you have to graduate learning speaking Danish, bear in mind that if you are in a country where we have Danish in school so second grade, because a country of 5.5 million people, you kind of need to learn some languages.
Yeah.
And so no one is really trying to help you speak in Danish, and that means that everything you learn is from school.
Yeah.
So it was, and then Michelle was working. She's a pastry chef by trade, so she was working overnight shifts and such. So she simply couldn't go to school. She was not possible
It was
to
just,
work.
like literally in terms of timing, it was just impossible. Like so you're saying to learn the language, the optimum way to do that, the really only way to do that was to go and sit in a class, do it through school, not through osmosis, not through kind of
You might.
moving.
So we kind of in February start looking into. I think this has been what it would look like for us to move him.
Mm.
Um,
So you shifted, your thought shifted because it was just so difficult. You're like, wow,
so
this is so hard.
and we had friends and hear horror stories about people, and it just came up not long ago, and it's still ongoing, that if you don't follow the requirements to the teeth, and it's based on somebody sitting behind a desk deciding that you're doing this to full extent of what you should do, you literally get 48 hours to leave the country, including if you have in Denmark, including if you have children.
So this sounds like this actually, and nothing against Denmark. It's a great place. I'd love to go to. I've never been to Denmark, but this sounds like it's a dystopian novel. Like it sounds like some kind of dystopian, 1984 type George Orwellian. Somebody sits there and says, "Oh no, you failed. You're out."
Yeah, and one of the things is like, up to that point, you read it in the newspaper, it happens, and you're like, it's not really happening to me. So
yes,
yeah, obviously I was opposed to based on my normal cultural background. I was opposed to those rules, and I thought it was weird that. But when you're actually going through it, you actually realize how stressful that is.
Unbelievably. It must have been unbelievable. I'm just trying to visualize. It must have been unbelievably stressful. Unbelievable.
Yeah, like, and then so we kind of ran into, like, we sat down and had a conversation, like, what would our life look like when we moved to Canada?
Yeah.
Would it be better? And bear in mind, like, unlike certain other countries in around 2008, 2009, like, Denmark is outside the Eurozone. So financially, we still had a recession, but nothing to the extent that we had around.
Didn't have the banks collapsing and all that stuff. Yeah.
Not even close. Like, obviously, they might have taken some losses, and it was not ideal, but it was same time, like, we didn't really. We did when, like, before 2008, they had a 0.5% in unemployment rate, and then they went up to like 3 or 4 or 5. Yeah. So it's not that.
It's pretty comfortable.
Decimal, yeah. So we applied for permanent residency over here, and lo and behold, we got it. It didn't take that long. It was like, this is surprisingly how fast it takes.
That's because Canada wants immigrants and needs immigrants.
They need. So that was 2012. So I landed here in October 6, 2012. Wow. And I actually prior had started looking for work, like my background in supply chain management. And I got a job. I landed in October, got a job opportunity in December, but my mom and my stepdad was coming over, so I got pushed that to January. At the same time, I've enrolled to Sheridan College in their supply chain management program. Mostly not because I've been a manager since I was 21, 22 years old, and this, I was in my mid-30s at the time. So it's not new to me, but I wanted to make sure, because most of it was through either companies or just hands-on experience. So I kind of decided, like, I can do this part-time. So I landed at a shipper receiver job in a company that was really, really welcoming and positive, and I enjoyed it. And I worked there for 9 months. Then I got an opportunity in a company closer to home in Burlington. And then I worked for this overhead crane company for 3.5 years. 3 years, something like that.
Yeah.
2 years, 3 years. And we bought a house. In the meanwhile, we bought a house. We kind of established ourselves. Michelle was
putting down roots.
yeah, now it's time, right? Like
Yep.
you kind of landed, you kind of have a steady income.
Yep.
And we landed in Dundas, and that's actually how I met you.
Yes. Done that.
I
Yes.
moved into your nephew's. I was your
Yes.
nephew's neighbor
Exactly.
for a
Yeah.
while.
And that's where you are now.
That's why I'm now. And one day, just after we bought the house, Michelle is notoriously a hoarder, and I'm not. I'm Danish minimalistic
All
to the
right.
teeth. So I walked by one of the neighbors, and his son was having a garage sale, and there was this big guy coming out, bald big guy, and he's like took his hand out. I was like, "Hi, I'm Adam Bienenstock." I was like, "Oh, you're the Natural Playground guy." And it's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." It's like I'm not gonna buy any of your shit. And he's like, "Okay, I like you. Who are you?" And then I introduced myself. And shortly after, this was probably around July 2016.
Yeah.
Oh, 15, I think. And he's like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "I do supply chain management." And at the time, I was doing mostly cross-border warehousing and stuff like that for this growing company.
Yep.
And he's like, "Well, I own a natural playground company, and we're located in Dundas, just down the road. And I'd like to talk to you about maybe figuring something out one day." I was like, "Sure, we can do that."
Nice. Let's have a chat.
And I was like, "Yeah, it's going to happen when it happens." And it's not something. I was a little bit tired working for the company I was at the time. My wife is a big old hippie, and one of the primary customer was things in Fort McMurray and the oil sands.
Okay.
So it was quite often that was like a blaming look at me, and it's like, "How many endangered species had you killed today, and how many people have you given cancer?"
nice kind of after dinner conversation, you know.
Yeah.
over the pasta, and
yeah. And so I started like 2 months after I started at Bienenstock Natural Playgrounds.
Amazing.
And I started in the production side of it, and running the production. And then just over time, like through promotions and so on, now I'm a partner and the CEO of Bienenstock Natural Playgrounds.
Amazing. So just to tell people, I know I've seen a lot of the work. Obviously, follow the company. It's really interesting. But tell people, I think it must be. I mean, just the comment you made about Michelle being a hippie and all that. Michelle's great, and that comment about the industry you were kind of connected to, being an industry that she wasn't comfortable with, and you weren't comfortable with, whatever. But you just have to make a living, right? Mm-hmm. This is literally the flip side of that. This business, right? This is all about life and nurture and children and just creating a better life through business. So just explain it, because a lot of people will probably see it in their communities, but they don't.
Yeah. So we have a pandemic besides the one we're going through right now, in the sense of that our children is not connecting to nature as they used to.
Yes.
Which means that the worst case scenario, besides the immune systems that they're not building as they were used to, so one of the stats had that what happening is that parents is overprotected.
Yes.
When I was growing up, from like reasonable age, my mom was like, "Okay, we're eating at 6. Here's a watch."
Yes.
In the summertime.
Yes. No phones, but here's a watch. Yeah.
No, well, phones was not.
Yeah.
And we when you live in Denmark, and especially in the area I was in, you can take your bike and then you can ride for 10, 15 minutes, and you're on the beach, right? Yeah. So you hang on the beach all day, and there's a forest and so on, and then just in general, you just roamed. Yeah. Now, if a kid crossed the street on the same road that across his house,
alarms,
the world collapse.
Yeah, GPS trackers in their pockets.
So there's the issue is also, so they don't have the freedom that they used to have. I'm not saying I want to my 4-year-old son running around on the street right now, but when he gets a little bit older, I want him to roam a little bit more. So that's one thing. There's also the aspect of that when you just sit down, and we all know it, like I spend a lot of time in front of my computer on a daily basis. My body doesn't necessarily feel that great. But they don't have the same triggers on kids. So they don't get they don't get the strength that they used to have.
Okay.
And they find that when kids start elementary school and kindergarten, that some of the kids can't even sit still.
Wow.
They can't sit in a chair for that, like just simply can't hold their body up for that long. Plus, like if your kid sits in front of a screen for that long, they have a lot of energy they need to get rid of. Right? There's a lot of that
pent up energy. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And so back, I don't know when, Adam and Jill, like bear in mind that my nephews in Denmark, when they were in daycares, got picked up. They lived downtown Copenhagen, got picked up on a bus, and then they drove them into the woods. So, with obviously there was adults and supervisory around that, but that's pretty much what the Scandinavian model is. That you need to have the kids need to be outside X amount of hours a day and so on.
It's actually a part of the curriculum type thing.
Yeah, and Scotland is also one of the countries that's really, really hammering this down perfectly. So
it's amazing.
Coming over here, and even playgrounds, Denmark is very much built by like raw, not raw, but natural materials like logs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when I came over here and saw everything with plastic and steel, like didn't really put two and two together, but Natural Playgrounds, which is a concept that's driven by the pedagogy and so on, and the general improvement of the kids' children's health. That is where it comes from.
So it's quality of life. It's literally.
It is a quality of life, yeah. Like, and Adam and Jill Bienstock is Adam is one of the leading experts in nature play, which is what it's driven by.
Absolutely massive.
Do talks with cities all over North America and so on. And then Jill Bienstock is the grassroots educator.
Yes, I've seen lots of videos and stuff like that. Yeah.
So she goes down to nitty-gritty detail about this is how you
seen it. Literally in the trenches. Yeah. So a quick thing, you reminded me of something I've seen on Twitter a while ago, and it was about the trend, what you just spoke about, the shrinking trend of kids and where they can roam, and what you just spoke about when you were a kid. Here's your bike, then there's a six, make sure you're back. And parents didn't kind of worry. And I'm as guilty as anybody for being, I'm not too much of a helicopter parent, but I'm as guilty as anybody letting fear take over. But I've seen this really great, informative graphic of a study of a guy who has a child now. So he has, a 10, 12-year-old child. And it showed geographically the circle of the radius, basically, if you want, for want of a better term, where his 12-year-old roams. Then he mapped out where he used to go. It was obviously exponentially bigger, and then he went back to his father's time, and that was it. So it was like the map was graphically. It was like his grandfather used to, roam, as you said, or this area, and then it shrunk after like the next generation, and it shrunk down. So it's this ever decreasing circle. So it's just kind of backs up what you were saying, that the bubble is kind of getting, and will it get to this where kids say, you can never go out.
And the thing is also, like, the community of our grandparents was significantly bigger than the community we are now. Even though that we have access and easier travel means and so on.
Yeah.
But your community, like for very many people, it's your neighbor.
Yeah, your physical community. Yeah,
physical community is the neighbor,
not Facebook or social media.
No,
your touchy-feely People.
The people that can help you on a day-to-day basis, where the grandparents was the village. So
Yes.
I think it's one of those things and that comes from roaming. That comes from being comfortable going places.
Of course it does.
From an early age.
Yes.
So it is one of those things that is judgmental for the child development is doing as early as possible.
Yeah. But why, I mean, I'm kind of fascinated by another thing, an anecdote I have is my sister. You know, and the world is the world, right? I'm sure there's some places in the world fine, a little bit more dangerous than others. I get that. But my sister lives in a rural town in Ireland, not a dangerous place. And she admitted that she had this kind of hyper stressful time with her, I'm going to say 15 or maybe she's 16, her daughter, going for a bike ride for the first time down to the forest. This was like a month ago. Yeah, this is like or 2 months ago, right before the pandemic, and she kind of laid it out that I'm having a stress. Am I stupid? And people are like, well, you're not stupid. It's emotional, so you can't help your fears. But you got to think of her kind of letting her kind of roam and explore. And if you're not doing that, that's a bad thing.
Yeah, and I also think one thing that is predominant is that easy access to mass media.
Yes,
I think it's because but totally for me personally, there was the boogeyman somewhere. Like obviously, but if you look at
that's so true. I never thought of the aspect that's so visceral and true. You're just exposed to the horrors of life on a daily basis. So your brain is full of this, and your brain takes over and says, "Oh, this could happen."
Yeah, and one of the things that I remember in 91, 92, when the Rodney King thing happened, it was like on every newspaper ever, mostly because of the riots that came afterwards. But we saw a guy get, with a very crappy camera, getting beaten close to death.
Yes.
But now we see, not long ago, unfortunately, we saw George Floyd getting strangled to death.
Yes.
I remember the horrific, back in 91, 92, how bad it was for all of us.
Yes, how shocking. How shocking.
We literally saw on our phones a person die.
Yes.
And I think it's one of those things, how jaded are we getting?
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's fatigue. It's fatigue. It's trauma fatigue. It's terrible.
And at one point or another, we're all going to go and get PTSD. Yeah. But when we see these things happening in real time, obviously, the first thing we think as a parent is, how can I protect my child?
Absolutely, yes.
But we don't, most of us doesn't experience those things, those dangers in life.
Of course. Like majority of people do not. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I live in Dundas. Like, that's absolutely. Not, like, yes, we have halfway homes and so on, but it's not like crime central. No. It's not Detroit in 1989.
No.
Even so, certain people think it is.
Yes.
That some teenager roamed through my car because I'm an idiot and did not lock my door. Like, obviously, the teenagers do not do that, but at the same time, he didn't hurt anyone, and I was an idiot. I didn't lock my door in my car.
Got it, yeah.
So he got $2, and I'm annoyed he didn't took all the quarters.
Change. Pennies. Why didn't you take the pennies?
Yeah, why not? That was the hell? Nobody.
Hey, next time I'll leave a bottle of cleaner and a rag. Little note.
Yeah.
If you're going to steal my money, could you please just kind of wipe around everywhere?
Yeah. We want to hand sanitize everything.
Hand sanitizer for that's actually that could happen.
Mostly for your own safety. So yeah. I think, like, obviously this can easily go down to a grim thing, but I think it's important for parents to realize and understand. And one thing, if a kid, like the same thing, people don't understand the kids by default and how they're wired will do things gradually.
Yes.
So we build these sideways trees. This is a sideways tree. This is similar to a climber.
Yeah.
But the same way that you would have climbed a tree on a normal basis when you were a kid, obviously you don't go straight to the top.
Not straight up the trunk.
You sit gradually challenging all that.
So it's an innate. You're saying that's an innate kind of thing that people are programmed to do, or kids are programmed to do.
Exactly, right? And there's a lot of studies about these things, and it is like obviously there's a more serious pandemic going on and,
Yeah, of
and a
course.
massive recession, but there is also, we need to be aware that of all the casualties through this pandemic right now, the number one that we have to be worried about, besides the people getting sick, is our children.
Yes.
Because one thing I did notice with my own child is that, and we neglected to do that the first week or two, is that when you have a 4-year-old and so on, and you literally taking their, like, we as adults understand, and teenagers probably also do, it's like, you can't be with your friends right now.
Yeah.
But it's hard to explain to a 4-year-old, because you also want to make sure that, okay, you don't want to put all the glory, like,
No.
this is Italy, this is how it's going. That's not going to put that in his
No.
face.
That would be irresponsible. Yeah.
So there was a lot of conversation we had with others about, okay, so there's a cold or flu going around, and it means that you can't see your friends. And I was still working. I've been working through all of this. Had a couple of weeks from home, but other than that, I'm lucky enough also to be, one of the things the company owns is a 40-odd acre farm, the way I'm sitting right now, which have probably we had access to, not only
So you had
us,
lots of space and stuff like that.
not only us, but also our employees. Like, not only the partners, but also our employees. We had a schedule to say, okay, I will be here between noon and 2.
Nice.
There's also, obviously, you can't go into the buildings. Make sure you do the.
Yeah, but you had some valuable space. You could figure something out where it's different than people working in offices and stuff like that, where you just have a desk and wherever, they don't really have a capacity to do that.
No, but this was when we were full-on pandemic and people were working from home. So we were making sure that people still had an access to get outside at least. Because if you can't go, nobody can go to the park. We still need to get some fresh air.
Absolutely, park were closed, trails, the whole lot. Yeah, they're open.
And to be honest, like, I am. How I see it, like, I have no right to complain. I still have my job. I still have my health. Everybody I know.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
And I have access to open space, roam, so on. And I have amazing colleagues and partners in my business and stuff like that. But we also do have to recognize that some of these people that's out there was sitting in their apartment for 4 weeks,
unbelievable,
2 months,
unbelievable,
and couldn't go out. Right?
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Like, at least I have a backyard. Like I had
some people. Yeah, I read about some people who, some people live in 600, in the city, especially as you well know, like any big city in the world, space is a premium, and they got like 600 square feet, and maybe a window or two, but no veranda, no balcony. So imagine, like, I'm lucky as well. I've got a nice spacious backyard, and go out in the backyard and sit somewhere and get some air and get some peace, and mentally, because mentally is the right, physically and mentally, one is as important as the other. But I couldn't imagine being, and I feel so sorry for people who are cooped up in that box, and maybe with somebody else. I mean, it must have been unbelievably difficult.
Well, when I was growing up, I was living with my mom in a 1-bedroom apartment, right?
Yeah.
And then she met my stepdad and his son, and we were 4 people living in a very small space until they bought a townhouse. But if that had happened, like this has happened back then, I don't know how that would go down.
Yeah. You can't go. You cannot go outside the door. That's taken away.
Exactly.
So this has been crazy. So in terms of, you've and that was one of the questions I was going to ask, and you've kind of answered it. How you guys kind of navigated the pandemic. So I've spoken to
as a personal level, on
no, kind of more as a business, because I did get the vibe, and I kind of guessed that you guys would keep working away, because it's a project driven business. You got a pipeline, you got stuff to do.
So it's been that was a roller coaster. So going back to Adam Bienenstock's dad is a former dean of McMaster Health and Science, and he's an immunologist, and he has the Order of Canada, and he's one of the most renowned immunologists. He has Paul Senior's old
Yes.
job.
Yeah.
Not posting his job, right?
Yeah.
And everything in Denmark happened since mid-February, when they start getting cases up from Italy. The thing is, in week 7 is the winter holidays in Denmark, and everyone going skiing.
Yes.
So everybody going skiing, and one of these few years where that was hardly no snow in the French Alps, so everyone goes to the Italian Alps and Austria.
Wow.
They start coming back.
Oh my goodness.
So obviously, my mom is a NICU nurse, and my sister is a clinical psychologist back home.
Yeah.
So it's like, obviously I was watching the Danish news and like, okay, this is coming. Like it will come at one point.
Yeah.
So we were doing Cannon and Blooms and building one of the biggest natural playgrounds, stunning thing while all this was going on back home. We're prepping it for it, and we're kind of going into it now. And we kind of, one of my friends and Michelle's friends, he is in exploration and mining, and he went to that conference where the first community thing can happen, and he started showing symptoms. Unfortunately, part was that his fiance had been over at the time, so I called in to we were kind of preparing for this. We kind of saw it coming, like if it is happening in Europe and it's happening. So me and Adam had a lot of conversations about it. It's like, okay, what's we going to do with this happen?
Yeah.
Because it will.
Yeah.
So anyways, I quarantined myself, went home. Yeah. Told Michelle, it's like, we need to stay home. Like we had to go in quarantine. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like,
you're crazy.
This is a thing. So I was working from home. Our businesses were still running to a certain extent, and they would start coming up with the first couple of requirements about things. Yes. But everything was still looking as they were going to go. So we early on starts putting in policies. Like we have a couple of properties, and we start splitting people up. We start making sure that we schedule the schedule. Even before that, we were told to.
You were on it early. You were just on it early. You were just like literally preemptive. You could see the wave coming. Yeah. It caught a lot of people by surprise. In terms of, I think I spoke to a lot of different business owners on the podcast and otherwise, and different mix of people. Some people super prepared, seeing what was coming and made plans, and some other people kind of didn't see it, and it just hit them bang. They had all the construction companies, they had all their plans laid out, and then it was like literally, you cannot work. The government said you cannot work. And
go home.
They were just like, what? So so that was good that you had it.
Yeah,
and then the wave coming.
Then what happened was that we sent people home before that. Pretty well when we were talking about it, and some got temporarily laid off. We still had to call people back. Yeah. Which was one of the hardest decisions of my life. Of course. It's never fun.
No.
We still had. This was where things got weird. So we have a lot of projects in the US.
Yes, of course.
And we
do a lot of stuff across North. I meant to say that you do a lot of stuff across North America.
Yeah, specifically right now in Colorado, but they did not necessarily follow the same protocols as the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Which was problematic, right? So we had people in the US that had to pull like in the last minute. They closed the border on Tuesday. We got them home Sunday. So we kind of made that decision on the fly. It's like, okay, now it's time to get them home. It's not comfortable.
Big decision.
They're not comfortable. We're not comfortable.
Yeah.
So we still then we had to rejig our business on that front and go to a more soft model.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So you basically figure out what's going on and then adapt your model, which is, I think, now a lot of companies are they've done that, But we
simply
did it early.
Yeah, we
You
did
made
it.
decisions early. And
We made everything early.
Yeah, those early decisions are I think, even if you make a kind of a wrong decision early, it gives you more time, I think, to figure things out.
The primary for me was making sure that everybody was healthy and
Safe. Yeah, exactly. People.
that for my own personal financing and stuff like that didn't really matter to me.
Yeah. I mean, people are most absolutely. I mean,
when we had roughly around 50 people working for us, both here in the U.S. and the U.S. employees, and it is paramount for me to make sure that they are okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also not only okay health and safety wise, but also okay financially.
Of course. Yeah.
So
exactly.
we did a lot of incentives. If you hear some dumping behind me, is because we right now. So we have 40 acres of land.
Yes.
44 acres land. 7 of those is conservation. So we built a community garden.
Oh, nice.
And we got chickens in, so we could get fresh eggs. We got chickens for slaughter that we had start rolling out.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, just to make sure that everybody was okay. Like,
that's nice.
Just to make sure the food security, also for your mental health, that you know that somebody actually cares.
Yes, exactly.
So that was extremely important for us.
Right.
And then everything else comes secondary.
Yeah.
So that was it. When we came to so everybody was working from home. We brought a couple of people back just to maintain our properties. When they roll out the subsidies, which in my personal opinion did way too long. It took too long.
Yeah.
The 75% subsidies.
Yes, definitely.
And the messes with the SERP versus EI and whatnot to begin with was also.
Yeah.
I also understand in the sense of
it's a big machine. It's a big
machine, right?
Yeah, so millions of people, I know, and traditionally those government, systems are in place, like their legacy systems. Even the computers they run on, like a lot of those would run on, old kind of, IBM, VAX, and all the banks and all. The people don't realize that the front end might be nice and shiny in your ATM. But in the back end, our old COBOL systems and 30-year-old systems, and so it just takes a while to kind of turn,
Yeah, and you have to make sure that everybody is like you working from home all of a sudden, right? So what is that?
Yes.
And that's actually for me has been what my mental fatigue went out to is that everything now is a formalized process.
Yeah.
So if I used to go to my my accountant or my bookkeeper, I could just like, hey, can you make sure this is paid, or can you make sure this invoice is sent out, and so on. Now I have to sit down and write an email or pick up the phone and call someone. So it's actually now a formalized project instead of just like in passing. It's like, hey, we're on top of this.
Got it. Yeah.
Which is also probably problematic because when I write emails about things that not as so serious as always know, like if wording is paramount of this. So it's been a ride.
But I mean, looking forward. Sorry to cut across, but I'm just saying. I was going to ask you about because that's kind of very interesting to hear how you guys dealt with it. I haven't kind of heard that. I don't think I've heard anybody being as preemptive as that, and it just seems like there was a confluence of different things that helped you be preemptive, intel information, just being forward-looking and stuff like that. And probably getting good advice as well. But in terms of, and I love the kind of Danish inside angle you had as well. And that you know what I mean? You seen what happened with the skiers. That was all intel. And you put it all in the pot and made decisions based on that. So that was really, really interesting. A lot of people would have just made decisions on the ground here, right? And human beings, well, what's going on around me? Oh, it's everything's can't see the virus.
Kind of. Well, one of the things that, like you in marketing and so on, you're looking at trends, right?
Yes, always.
So we, in the same thing we do, like every decent businessman looks for inspirations from the outside world.
Yeah, what's going on
within your field, right?
Yes.
But that also comes to politics.
Yes.
So some of the politics that we saw in Europe is now coming here, and that's not only on the COVID side. There's also
we know. It's a bit of a mess.
A little about freedom of speech and what do I know, but that's trends, right?
Yes.
So I probably purely look to Denmark and New Zealand,
Yes.
just because both the prime minister in those countries are stellar at their jobs, in my opinion.
Yes.
That's a personal political opinion, but
no, I agree. Jacinda Ardern, and I don't know what the Danish prime minister is called, but she's
Mette.
amazing. Yeah.
So looking at those trends, where it's a lot about empathies and social awareness, and looking at what their movement was, because Trudeau obviously wants to lean up against people that comes across as empathetic. So it is so kind of seeing pretty much what they rolled out. Just the differences in Denmark, that the federal government is so much stronger and has more power to day-to-day basis than they have here, because here's the 3 different layers or 4 different layers of government, which is obviously maybe necessary, because this country, like Denmark, is twice the size of Lake Ontario, and let's not make it it's not that big. So making those decisions for
it's Canada is very different. It's a very disparate country in geography, people. It's it's a mixed bag. It's provinces and territories, right? It's a kind of it's a unique type of kind of arrangement, right?
So that was so looking at those and look at those following trends, it's obviously moving forward. One of the trends that is coming out of Europe and actually also Japan and Korea right now is what are we going to do with schools? Like, schools in Denmark are open. Have been for a while. As I said, they're ahead of the trend that we are here. Like, they could just need to have time. And going through the same processes. So whatever that's going to look like. In Denmark, it's a lot of outdoor classrooms, a lot of working, like a lot of kids getting sent outside, because you don't sit in a circulated building,
environment, right?
So you're outside, so it goes down percentage wise. So I think there's a lot of trends going that way also here. So
what I think it's coming out of this conversation today, which has been amazing, is we'll have to have another conversation, definitely, for the outdoor lifestyle, my other podcast.
We can do that.
Which kind of focuses more, just literally focuses on Natural Playgrounds, your company, because I think it's very deep. We could go. We just don't have the time.
No, we don't.
Deep, and I think what I'd love is, and we'll set it up. What I'd love is just you kind of talking about the why. So, and you talk about trends, studies, and you guys as a company. And as a leader in a company, you have to be very much on top of trends and know what's happening. And I think it's really so. It will be so interesting and important for people, because children, as you know, Whitney Houston says, children are our future, right? But I think it'd be fascinating to hear, and for you and I to do a kind of on that podcast, to do a deep dive, and listen to you about the company, because I think I think there's layers there, and maybe even bring us through. What I'd love is maybe to bring us through a couple of case studies. I think would be interesting, because I know I don't know all the work you do, but I'm a fan of the work, I'm a fan of the company and the culture, and I just think that I know I've seen a lot of different case studies from around North America, and I've seen talks that Adam has given, and I've seen the work you guys do, and it's amazing. I'm definitely a big fan of the company, and I just would love to kind of get that out to our audience, because we've got our audience has grown a lot. Over the last 6 months. Before we changed to a much more of a social media model, away from a magazine model, because that's an older format. And I decided, so it's much more people are looking for richer content. So I think we could do it. We could do a nice.
Probably that. I can maybe ask Adam to be involved, because he's probably the bigger, wider guy than I am.
But I just think in terms of education, because I know the company's about education, and we got a nice audience, and we get we get a nice kind of listenership and viewership for these kind of people are hungry for information, right? So I think we'll do that, you know.
Yeah, and so the funny thing I just want to bring up is back in February, I started reading a book called Traction about developing big companies and so on. But it's a very business-minded book. It's purely business and about those things. But secondary, I got my history buff, and at the same time I was reading a book about the transition from the dark Middle Ages to the Renaissance.
Got it.
At the same time.
Yeah.
So, which is purely based on that
the Age of Enlightenment, right?
Age of Enlightenment, but it came pretty much out that 50% of the Italian population at the time, or what's now Italy, got wiped out.
Yes.
By the Black Death. So it was reading books about the Black Death versus about business development at the same time. We're living in a country that have had an uprise economy the last 12 years.
Absolutely.
Since 2008, 2009.
Yes.
Where there was a slight reset.
It's a rich country. It's a rich country.
Yeah. Well country. But maybe, and I hope so, that people realize that less is more in this many things.
Yes.
Like I'm not saying go out and live in a straw bale hut, and you have a mansion if you have a mansion, and so on and so on. But it also seems that the people that still have some, myself included, but a lot of people that I know, start giving more to communities.
Yes.
Give more to people that necessarily don't have.
Absolutely.
And help out.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's just like, do I need another car?
Yes.
No.
Do I desire another car? Yes. So it's about need and desire. Exactly.
So kind of, and
absolutely.
That kind
totally
of
agree with you.
And that means that if you don't necessarily need that car or the giant mansion, you probably can't afford putting furniture in.
It might influence your decision, you're saying. It might hopefully. I had a call from the guy from the car dealership yesterday, a random call. He's obviously gone through his listen. I'm always very empathetic to salespeople.
I bought a car. I'm not gonna lie, I did buy a car in this
but I'm gonna suggest you needed the car. No one But I got a call from a guy. I had my van like 6-7 years, and I got the call from the guy, like he knows, he sees the database and he's looking to upgrade. And I, again, always empathetic to salespeople. It's a tough job. We all have to do it at times. But, I was like, I never lead people down a merry path. I'll always say to them, look, and I said to them, right now, I said, I don't envy your job calling people to buy cars. But I said, no. And they're incentivizing people. Oh, we'll give you 3 months free payment. I'm like, and it's a mindset. It's not even the financial side of things. Forget about that.
Well,
it's the mindset. I'm like, I don't need to change that car and bring a new one in and put the old one out into and add another car onto the, So I'm like, and hopefully, and again, I don't wish any bad on the car industry. I'm not saying that.
No,
I'm just saying more informed and pensive buying decisions, and maybe cut out the excess, I suppose. It's a lot of excess. We all do it. We're all guilty, right?
Yeah, and I think that then trickles down to the conversation we had, not necessarily you and I, but the conversation that was going around in the world before this was the environment.
Yes.
So if we can, like, you can also see it now, like India, you can see the Himalayas.
Unbelievable.
Like, that's biggest mountains in the world.
Yeah. Venice, the river in Venice.
River in Venice, and you see the smoke being lifted from Beijing and stuff like that.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Like, I don't hope that we ever have to live through this again. Like, this is going to take way longer than most people project. I think it's going to take. My gut feeling is this little reset for 3 months. We gonna pay taxes into the rest of our life. Like, that's our taxes. Somebody at one point,
you gotta pay the bill. You gotta pay the bill. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I agree.
And I it is what it is. Like,
you just gotta get on.
Yeah. So I think it's important that we learn from this.
Yeah.
This is the biggest takeaway I take from the COVID-19 and 2020 in general, which is not the greatest year.
So we're only halfway through.
I know. I think it's next couple of days. It's like a week from now. It's 3 months since we all got sent home. All that
crazy.
but there's this thing. What we realize now, and one thing we also should know, is that we have this conversation with the people living from paycheck to paycheck.
Yes.
It's obviously that the economy system pretty much living from paycheck to paycheck, that we talking about, that we shut down for 3 months.
Yes.
Government put billions and billions and billions of dollars into people's pockets, and still we will have to pay for that the rest of our life.
Yes, exactly, for 3 months, which doesn't seem like a very long. It's not. It's 12 weeks. It's not a lot.
And it's still ongoing.
That tells you, the size of the economy, the size of the,
and how fragile it is.
And how fragile it is. Yeah, it's on kind of on the brink.
Yeah.
And I have a buddy who's a Chef Jagger Gordon, and he's kind of like a hero. And before all of this, I've known him for the past couple of years. He feeds people. He feeds people. Rich people or poor people. Sorry, rich people who look as if they're rich, but they actually don't have any money for good food. So he does, that's his mission, feed it forward. And this then came along, and he just kept plowing through it, but obviously the amount of people. So his projection, a bit like a projection you just gave, his projection is that, he's going to be like busy for forever. Because there's going to be so many more people who are marginal, even people who look, again, he said there's a lot of people who look as if they have money, but they can't, they might have a car, a house and all that, but they can't afford to buy good vegetables and good food. And his mission is to find those people, as well as the homeless and the more visibly, disadvantaged people. So he'll help them.
I agree.
But there's other people who he always tells me about who, there's a horrible stigma to it and stuff like that. Pride and whatever, and he has a store up in Dundas Street West, and he has some land, and they grow vegetables and stuff like that, and he just diverts food from landfill from companies, and you can go into that store and you can just pick up your food and give them $1. So he's going to be busy, like he was busy before this. Now it's just gone, like it's just going to meteoric, so.
Yeah, I think it's that's one of those things that we talked about. Like people are stepping up. There's a lot of people are stepping up.
Yes.
So
I think so.
Oh, you have a little bit. Let's
Yeah, I think so. And I think it comes from a place possibly of people saying, I'm very lucky. In this pandemic, I'm lucky. I'm still okay. I still have a job. I'm still, everybody's healthy. And they're looking outward. How can I help other people? And after this, if you have that effect, because I did see another thing, kind of a somewhat connected issue is, rescue dogs and stuff like that, and pets. Like a lot of people did that. Now that's the human kind of a bit of human kindness coming out. Now we're talking about helping other people, right? Which is obviously number one.
No, this is a part of the environment, and the animals also a part of it.
Exactly, of course, yeah. So hopefully, as you said, out of this, there'll be a sustained kind of movement of that kind of be kind and just help people, which I think is kind of, as you said, it's a very bad thing to happen, but it's like a shock. It's like a shock. It's like, oh my God. And it's giving us time to think. It's giving us time to think, about what we can do. So I think that's a huge aspect of it,
I agree.
So listen, I'm gonna let you go because you've given me more time than I kind of.
I'm late to a meeting that I said called out.
Yeah, so. I'm so sorry, but
no, don't be sorry.
But you know what? We had a good chat. Well, I really appreciate the chat. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, me too.
And I'll be in touch, and maybe we can set up something. And I'd love to do a deep dive on the business and the benefits. I just think all of it's a huge topic. So I think that would be fascinating, especially looking at Otis for this whole over your shoulder there, putting it with his buddy, putting in a wooden ball, and his hands are full of muck.
They are always full of muck,
which is the way it's meant to be, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Awesome.
Thank
you very much,
Alan.
I appreciate it, and
talk to you
I'll
later.
catch up.
And so give my best to the family, okay?
Thank you.
And all the love.
Take care.
Thank
you very much.
Bye.
Take care, lad.